Righto, now we're on to section 2 of the controlled traffic farming module. In the first one, you probably got a good background about why would we go to this step of controlled traffic. Now the next thing is, how do I actually do that on farm? What are the sort of things I need to do? And so what we're going to talk about is the steps to controlled traffic, and also some of the risks and failures that we've had in the past, so that you don't make the same common mistakes. So we're going to look specifically about machinery modifications and what to look out for. Let's have a look at some of the slides now I've got prepared on how to modify your machinery for controlled traffic. Steps to control traffic. Most people that I know, well, it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek this, but people start when they're broke because they've got to do something different. And when you listen to Joe Reddy, he says, you know, if he wasn't honest, being honest, he says that if they wouldn't have done something different, they would have gone broke. So the change has really kick-started the business again. But what it means is you shouldn't have to spend too much money. You know, we don't have to spend a lot of money to get started. Number one thing is to make sure you decide on metric or imperial right from the start. You see people trying to mix metric and imperial and it just ends up a mess. So that's an important thing. And most boom sprayers are like plumbed imperial, which is a problem. If you're on a metric row spacing and you want to do shielded spraying or inter-row stuff or band spraying, then you've got a problem. Row spacing becomes critical as well, and every millimetre sort of counts then, because you are working to a really set amount. We recommend that sort of 9 or 12 metres is probably the best operating widths. It's what most contractors can handle. I do have one guy that's gone to 11 metres for metre rows. He just couldn't give up his metre rows. He wouldn't get a 30 inch. So we went back to an 11 metre system, so it's an odd number. And then you have a centre row and it works perfectly. And his system's going well. But he wanted his metre rows. So it doesn't work on 12 metres with a 3 metre wheel track. So all harvesters, like I said, will go to 120 inch. And then you've got to make sure that your machine will go to 3 metres or 120 inch. And then I obviously recommend multiples of 3 is easier. 27 metre boom and 9 metre cedar, for example, or a 12 metres and 36 metre boom works a lot better. Just when you start, you know, you can jump over a set of tracks and not have too much trouble. And I guess the simple way is to start by removing the tines behind the wheel tracks, and that's how guys got started up here in central Queensland. It was just lifting up those tines on the 2 metre wheels and off they went. And it sort of started from there. So you can start very simply, but do it like you were saying about putting extra, get rid of those green heads, put extra rows down, extra seed down from that row. Just depends on your configuration of your planter. Like I set up a planter the other day that we just pull one tine out and it was put that extra tube down, just like you're saying, and worked perfectly. And I guess add auto steer when you can. It's obviously ideal to have it, but do it when you can. You know, all these guys started without auto steer in the early days. So rear axles on front wheel assist. Most of the bar axles are fine. They're all warranted out to that sort of distance. Just a matter of winding that rim out and turning it round or dishing it out. You can see on here there's the cast inner. Don't use the pressed inners. They're not as strong. So if you've got jewels, just flick the jewel off and then just use that inner. The inner jewels are always typically the cast inners, a bit stronger. So the back end's fine. Front ends, if you've got an 8300 or an 8400, they're in hot demand at the moment because you can buy this kit from CNC Engineering in Toowoomba for $8,000 roughly, and you can put it on in a couple of hours. Just pull the axles off. There's an axle extension that fits inside. Put the axle back on again, and they'll ship on a crate, and you do it yourself. Very strong. Never had any of these fail at all, and you're shifting your bearings out, so you're not putting that extra pressure on bearings and kingpins. There's one operating in the field with that extension on it. The old option, I guess, is putting cotton reel spools on, and obviously puts a lot of pressure on bearings and kingpins. I see green tractors sort of handling that a bit better than reds or yellows or blues. They don't seem to be as strong. But you definitely need to increase your maintenance and keep an eye on those bearings and kingpins. You might only get 1,000 hours out of them, but it is a cheap option. It's about $1,500 a side now to buy a set of spacers. $3,000 total. John Deere ones are a bit more expensive, but you know. This is a 4450 Johnny that we cut and shut, so CNC will do that as well. Full cut and weld job. About $10,000, $12,000 to do that. And then, yeah, I know a lot of people with blue tractors that are doing this. New Hollands, yeah. The biggest thing to be careful of is rear axle size on older tractors. You guys ever measured your axle size? This one here is like 85mm. We've got that out on 3 metres. It's been out there for quite a while. It hasn't broken yet, but I'm very cautious about anything under 100mm. Should really have 100mm axle size to be a lot safer for that rear end. And if you've got a lot of money, you can go and buy a new tractor which is fully warranted, like this John Deere here is. John Deere comes out like that's the straight axle. So the ILS, TLS warranted, 7000, 8000 series, which are now new, whatever the new numbering system is. 783R 721 or something. Oh, that's just there's the spacer kit you can get, and some other sort of actual support as well. Some people do that. Got a guy that's done 3.6 metres. This is a brand new, it was an 8330 or 8530. And he pulled the whole ILS off and built his whole big structure frame underneath that front end there. The steel is, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches thick to support it. But now they've patented that, and you can buy it off the shelf if you want. Here we go, we did an old Steiger. This is in Canada. They pulled the rims off, welded them together, strengthened them up, stuck them back on, put the tyres back on, and that was the first season last year on the old Steiger. So there you go. They get bored over winter, so they sit there and weld and do everything. But it never fell apart, you know. Like it's lasted a season. He's just about to start seeding again once the snow melts. This is in Alberta, just about an hour and a half north of Calgary.